You don't need to attend a full-on film school. You can attend smaller classes. You can attend Medialite. You can watch YouTube videos. So for me, it was like I've always been self-taught. Specifically, I spent a ton of time teaching myself photography, trial and error, asking people like what's good about these photos, looking at other people's photos. Because most everything I do, I don't have a team. I do the photo, I do the video, I do the audio. And so I need to be confident in all of those when I take on a project. Almost lost my life there, but I just felt this peace, not because anything special, but because the Lord was with us. And God promises to always be with us, especially put our trust in him. And so just that confidence, that peace that he's with us. No greater love than a man would lay down his life for someone else. And so that's the mission of Jesus. And that's our mission to serve people in conflict zones, in these dangerous areas of how we can help.
You've been with Medialite from 2016. You have changed and being such a kind teacher, encouraging everybody.
That's what I really began to love at Medialite. I have this passion for photography and video. And it's not just about teaching them skills, and it's not just about teaching them like the technical stuff. This is how you hold a camera. This is what you, but it's really teaching them as well, like giving them a passion and a love for sharing stories, for honoring people and seeing them the way that Christ does. When you teach them that, the skills come later. And so it's such a joy for me to get to go in and help equip them with those skills that when they go back home to wherever they're from, that they can use their skills in photo and video to share stories.
Welcome back to another episode with my brother, my friend Jonathan. So Jonathan, I have so many questions in my mind. And before I start, I'm a big fan of your photos. You're my big inspiration. So the first time when I met you in Vietnam and you took my picture, I think that's still my Facebook picture, I guess. I think it's like more than 7 years ago. So I want to start from there. Tell me how the journey of your photography started.
Yeah, so for me, it began when I was younger, like in middle school or maybe high school. My dad brought home an older digital camera. And so for me, beginning to discover photography, I loved how you could freeze motion. That to me was the coolest thing, like capturing basketball games or soccer games, getting the player or the ball like frozen in the air. That was the coolest thing to me. But it also began like how much I enjoyed giving the photos back, because all of a sudden I was like, whoa, this guy's taking photos of me. And so, different friends or whatever would reach out and they really appreciated my poor photos, but it was like, wow, he's taking it of me. So then I also began to see how I loved taking photos, but I enjoyed seeing how it could just like bless someone or encourage them, right? Like, oh, I love that. And it was so fun to see their joy of like, oh, can I see the photos you took during this game? And so my photos weren't great. Even now, I still have like whole albums of 300, 400 photos on Facebook that are terrible, but it's like, it's documenting my journey, right? But then for me in high school, it began to sort of shift of like, wow, I have this passion for photography, but I want to use it for something more. So up to that point, growing up overseas, growing up as a missionary kid, I was like, man, I want to travel. I want to take photos. Maybe I want to work for National Geographic. And it's not like they ever called me, but that was my dream, right? I was like, ooh. My senior year, I took 2 trips in high school that really, for me, shaped who I was in terms of a creative, of a photographer and videographer. My senior year of high school, we visited Papua New Guinea, and we traveled with the Jesus Film. And the Jesus Film is a team where it's a movie about the life of Jesus, and it's in the local language. And so we traveled to a really remote part of Papua New Guinea to visit a village with our local partners there to show the Jesus Film. And I got to go along as well to sort of document or capture stories about the equipment being used, but also most importantly about this story about people seeing or hearing about Jesus. And for that, it really clicked. There's a photo. It's one of my favorites I've ever taken, and it's the crowd, it's the audience watching the story of Jesus for the first time. And it just means a lot to me because for me, that picture speaks 1,000 words, as they say, because like these people getting to hear about Jesus for the first time. And I have the opportunity to share that moment about that story. And so for me, that was the first story of how I began to see, like, I want to use my photography for something more. And the older I got, the dream about being a Nat Geo photographer, I was like, well, I don't want to spend my whole life taking photos of like dolphins and mountains and trees. That's cool. But I want to use my gifts to tell people stories about what God is doing, about shining a light in the darkness. And so my dream of being a Nat Geo photographer never was fulfilled, but instead I really enjoyed using photography and videography to share, working with local organizations or nonprofits to get to do that. And so when I was in college, there was one trip I went to visit an island called Tonga, and I did a video on a home there that treats children with physical disabilities. And so got to highlight some of their stories about the children, about the families, it's a Korean missionary couple that had started the home. They were physical therapists and just had a passion for these kids. So that was the second time where getting to use my photography and videography for me, like really was like, wow, I'm getting to use this to bless others and to share and to encourage them to share, put a light on the situation, or what is going on. So for me, it was those two stories that really shaped me of who I want to be as a creative, but ultimately sharing stories about what God is doing.
When you were talking about this, it kind of took me back when I was a bit more younger, when my dad bought me a 1200D camera
Yeah,
from
yeah, yeah,
Singapore.
yeah,
It's a silly story behind why he bought me that,
yeah,
but it just took me there. It's
yeah,
like, and as soon as I got that, I didn't know anything about a
yeah,
DSLR,
yeah.
and like you are going everywhere, like just
Yeah, it was like
clicking,
the click sounds so good,
like
right?
clicking pictures, and you like zooming in,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
zooming out,
yeah.
and like you take, and like
But for you, you feel so
yeah,
good.
you don't know
Yeah.
anything about it, and you try to show it to everybody.
Yep.
It just took me back there, and as soon as you have a DSLR and you watch Nat Geo on TV,
Yeah.
everybody wants to become a wildlife photographer
Yeah.
with that huge,
Yeah, yeah, the big lens.
the zoom
Oh, yeah,
lenses
yeah,
and
yeah.
all those things.
I remember saving up money. I wanted to buy a big lens. I didn't even know what lens I wanted. I just wanted the biggest lens so people would be like, "Wow, he's a photographer." And now I realize that's so heavy. It's so
Yeah,
big.
yeah. You don't even know how
I don't
heavy that
yeah.
is. So like, yeah, even though you didn't do any Nat Geo stuff, but pretty much what you do, like telling people story.
Yeah.
It's like a Nat Geo thing, but
Mm.
it's not on TV though.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's in different places, and people you're telling people story.
Yeah.
And I remember one story that you shared about you doing video for a lady.
Mhm.
And could you share about that experience, how it started, of you telling stories of people?
Yeah, one big lesson I learned, it wasn't a good one, but a lesson I learned was in college, I got to visit. I shared about it briefly earlier, but I visited a home in Tonga
Mhm.
that is a home for children with disabilities. And so it was started by a Korean missionary. They're physical therapists, and they went there to teach families and the community that having a child with disabilities is not a curse. It's a gift from the Lord, and that child deserves love and deserves respect, right? And so I had the incredible opportunity to go in and to share sort of their story and to get to shine a light on what they're doing. And that's the part of videography I love is like we get the opportunities like shining a spotlight, right? Like it's not if it wasn't for us, but we get to play a part in sharing that story with the world, right? That maybe if it wasn't for our video, people might not know what's happening. So it's really cool. I got to go in. At that point, I knew almost nothing about video, but I was just so excited. Even like audio. Audio is so important. But I remember I had my shotgun mic on top of my camera. I had it wrapped in toilet paper
Mhm.
because I was trying to block the noise and I didn't know how audio works. So I literally had it wrapped in toilet paper, had cardboard around it because I was trying to get interview audio, but it was so far. Yeah, I was trying to isolate it. Like, what are you doing? It was like 10 feet away. But what was so cool is like I was just so excited and passionate to share these people's stories. Didn't have the skills necessarily yet, but that was what was most important for me. And so maybe that's a good encouragement to me now. Like no matter what, like don't lose that fire, that desire. The skills will come later, but having a fire to share people's stories. But unfortunately, I spent a week there getting all these great videos, getting all these awesome testimonies. When I went back to the US, started editing this video, excited because now I can like help them with fundraising or help put a light on the work they're doing. And then a friend of mine accidentally formatted my hard drive
Oh my God.
and I lost everything. And I was so disappointed because all of that work, all the people's expectations for me, and it was all gone. Like I had failed. So it was a big lesson. It wasn't a great lesson. I mean,
It's a
it's always a good
yeah.
lesson. But I didn't do a good job. And so for me, that was important because one, it was like, wow, I'm really excited to share these stories, even if my skills aren't there. Like I'll learn. But second is like, man, there's a responsibility. And especially as creatives, like, I mean, whether it's technical, like double backup, different things like that, but also just making sure we honor the people's stories who we're working with, stuff like that. So that was an early on a big lesson for me.
Like when you format things, your
Yeah,
heart just stops.
just goes.
Like, oh, that's
It's gone.
terrible.
Yep.
One more.
Yeah.
And as I told you in the beginning, that you're a big inspiration.
Mm.
So what were some of the things that you did to improve your skills?
Mm.
If you can tell certain things that these were the things that you did to improve every
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is there anything that you do
Yeah.
that
Um,
can that you learn that you do things? What are
yeah.
some things that you could say?
For me, there were periods of my life where, I mean, the internet's amazing. You don't you don't need to attend a full-on film school. You can attend smaller classes. You can attend Medialite. You can watch YouTube videos. So for me, it was like I've always been self-taught, and so specifically, I spent a ton of time teaching on myself photography, trial and error,
Mhm.
asking people like what's good about these photos, looking at other people's photos. Audio, spent a ton of time practicing audio, understanding it for myself, because most everything I do, and can get into that later, but I don't have a team. I do the photo, I do the video, I do the audio, and so I need to be confident in all of those when I take on a project. But I think the biggest thing that helped me was diving in and taking on jobs where there was a little pressure, right?
Mhm.
Whether it was because there was a little, maybe they paid me a little bit,
Mhm.
or whether there was a deliverable like, hey, I will get you this video. Something. It wasn't a big project, but if there's a little bit of pressure, that makes you better, right?
Mhm.
So of course I love photo walks. I love all these things where it's like just go out and do it. But until there's a little bit of pressure,
Mhm.
you'll never become better,
Mhm.
right? And so by intentionally putting myself in these situations, or I mean, there was a story I was in even just last year. I was in Central Asia working with the team there, and a friend there was like, "Hey, I have a local gym I want you to do a video for because we're doing some ministry there, but
Mhm.
they need some media work." And I was like, "Great." I really didn't have any interest. I also wasn't confident. I was like,
Mhm.
I can't do this."
Mhm.
And then a couple days later, he's like, "Hey, get in the car. We're gonna go film that video." And I was like, "Wait, I don't want to do this."
Mhm.
Like I am not good enough. I was lazy. All these things, but we just rolled up, and I just started doing it. And it's in that process of doing it where there's pressure, where there's
Mhm.
expectations. That's when you become better. And so for me, early on, trying to put myself in those situations, or others putting myself in those situations, that's how I really became better in training myself and becoming better, is like go make stuff for people, because then there's an expectation of quality and of excellence. And so that's what really helped me improve my craft, was working with local businesses, local nonprofits, working with people, doing headshots, different things where it's not, this is fun, but it's like, okay, there's an expectation at the end where they'll get something out of it. So I want to do my best.
That's really true. When I realize it now, it's like, yeah, when you have that push
Yeah.
or the more of expectation that you have to deliver, yeah, so true. And you are one of the finest people.
Mm.
How you behave with people, you're
Mm.
so friendly, you're so kind. Things start like,
Yeah.
how did you? Because for me, sometimes I can come really rude or straight. It's like I really have a hard time being kind.
Yeah.
Even with like volleyball and
Yeah,
frisbee,
yeah.
you're always like cheering people being kind.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
where did it start from?
Mm. So early on, I think something that has always been pressed on me is that every single person is created in the image of God, and deserves respect, deserves dignity. And so for me, in my photography and my videography, I love getting to share that with people through respect. Whether it's photography, I try to always, if I'm taking portraits of people,
Mhm.
I try to always print off those portraits to give back, just as a way to say, like, you matter, you're significant, your story matters because you are created in the image of God. My buddy Johnny Moore introduced me. He carries around a little printer. And so I got the same printer. And so now I brought it to the Middle East. I do it in Myanmar, and other places as well, where I take portraits and I give them back, because, like,
Mhm.
this is important because you matter and you're created in the image of God. And so whether it's photography or videography, one of the most powerful quotes I heard, especially as a videographer, is that we are stewards of story. Like, there's a responsibility there,
For
right?
true.
So whenever I sit down with someone to interview them or hear their story, they are the most important person. And especially as a follower of Jesus, I think that they deserve respect and love. And so that's to me always the best part. The project, it'll come later. Like, I need to do a good job, of
Mhm.
course, but man, it's all about people. And if you get that, then your video will be even better, right? Like, if you
Yeah.
get if you honor them in that way, well, then they're naturally
Mhm.
gonna share more or be more comfortable. And so for me, it's always started with loving people and showing respect, and honoring them with my photos and with my video, because they're created in the image of God,
Mhm.
and that's what Jesus would do.
How big of a role does your family play? Like your dad, mom, sister, your
Mm.
wife. I want to know about them
Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure they're a big part of your
Yeah.
life in ministry, in doing all these things.
Yeah. I grew up as a missionary kid. I was born in the Philippines and then grew up in Singapore. So my whole life I've been the minority, like a cross-cultural idea, like I'm a little white kid in the Philippines and then in Singapore. But through that, growing up in like a cross-cultural environment, that I think that's where it really developed, where I developed like this heart for other people of other cultures. Like there's always so much to learn. My parents especially. My dad's a pastor. He has a house church in Singapore. My mom super supportive. She's the happiest person you'll ever meet. There's joy.
I have
You've
seen
met
her.
you've
Yeah,
joy.
like
You'll hear her before you see her, just
Mhm.
overflowing with joy. Like she just loves people. And I think my mom and I are so alike in that way of just like, man, I just love people. But then my dad as well, especially with respecting people from other cultures and learning from them. We have so much to learn from other people. And so I think from my parents, their background as Christians and teaching me those values when I was young, but then also teaching me those values in a cross cultural environment where there's so many people with different values, with different beliefs. It's really important to be respectful of those and honor them.
Mhm.
And so my parents have definitely played a big impact on who I am today in terms of honoring people, in loving Jesus, and being a good learner, or I guess learning from other people.
Could I think it was in 2019.
Yeah.
I
They were
think
here for like 24 hours. My mom and
Yes.
sister. Yeah.
And we enjoy them, and they're such amazing people.
Yeah.
And I believe that they're a big impact, and you reflect
Mm.
a lot of your parents. I think it's their heart
Yeah.
that you reflect. I
Yeah.
really appreciate them, and as well as you.
Mm.
So I want to jump in to the main part.
Yeah.
Is the ranger thing
Mm.
that you do with Cambodia,
Burma.
Burma.
Close.
I'm
One
sorry,
of those.
the Burma ranger thing.
Yeah.
I want to know about that because I heard your story that
Yeah.
you pretty much almost lost your life
Twice.
twice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to hear a lot about that.
Yeah. So in 2018 or 2019, I was talking with some friends, literally just about crazy humanitarian aid organizations in Asia. And one of them mentioned the Free Burma Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
That really piqued my interest. At that time, I was doing photography and videography with different organizations and getting to do it sort of like freelance, like working where I could. So I looked into the Free Burma Rangers, and they're a humanitarian organization that shares the love of Jesus and medical relief and aid in war zones. And so they work in Syria, work in Tajikistan, Afghanistan, and Burma, in war zones. And so at that time, I was really interested, but I was like, I'm not ex-military. I don't have that skill set, because most everyone in the organization had served in the military. But I went to watch the documentary. And at the end of the documentary, there's a tribute to a man named Zhao. And Zhao was a man from Burma who left and joined with FBR and went to the Middle East to Syria to help fight ISIS, but also to help people there, like delivering medical aid, humanitarian relief, and different things. And while he was there, he actually lost his life in a drone strike. And so he left his country that's already in violence and turmoil, and he left to go serve in another country to help those people. But at the end of the movie, in his honor, there's his description. It said cameraman and medic, and it was at that time like my eyes were open, like, wow, I can work with them. I can be a camera. I am a cameraman, and I'd love to have more training as a medic. But my skill set, I love videos, I love photos, I love sharing people's stories, so I can do this with the organization. So I reached out to them, and long story short, I've been serving with them since about 2020. Now I've taken on the job of their social media. I'm the head of social media and their public relations, really pushing, doing campaigns for justice and different things, really pushing stuff with the UN, human rights stuff. But yeah, my passion there has been sharing videos and photos of what God is doing in those dark places. My first mission with FBR, Dave and I, the founder, we were going across a rice field to help a lady plant rice because she had been shot at the past several days by the Burma army whenever she'd try to plant rice. And so she said, I can't do this. And Dave's like, we're with you. We'll support you. You matter. Again, like that thing of like, man, every person is created in God's image. And so your story is important. So we went with her to go plant rice, and I'm recording this. And as we're crossing this rice field, there's a lot more to it. But all of a sudden, the Burma army opens up and starts shooting at us with machine guns.
God.
And we're just in an open rice field, and I'm barefoot. I think it was barefoot. Dave's in Crocs.
Okay.
And so it was really funny because in the video, I'm filming all this, and he says, we'll pray and hope they don't shoot us, but if they do, we run. And it's not like 10 seconds, I have this on video. It's like 10 seconds later, they shoot and he just goes, all right, run. And so we just turned around and there's nothing we could do. We just started running through the rice field. A rice field's flat. There's nothing to protect us. So we're just running and the bullets are like popping in the water around us. And I'm not a hero. Like, I'm not a soldier. I'm like, what is going on?
Was it like Rambo?
Yeah, I felt like it. Just a lot less courageous. But there's nothing I could do, like if they
I'm sorry, I'm laughing.
shoot me. No, it was like there's nothing I could do, so I just ran. Rambo probably would have done something different, but yeah, almost lost my life there. But it really was. I just felt this peace, not because anything special, but because the Lord was with us, and God promises to always be with us, especially when we put our trust in Him. And so, just that confidence, that peace that He's with us. That doesn't mean the situation will always be okay. Like, we might still get hurt, something might happen, but He is with us, and because Christ is with us, we have peace. We can have peace in the storm, And so that was one of the. I mean, that was my first trip with FBI. I was like, okay, this is it. This is what this will be about. But just the whole mission of the organization comes from John 15:13, like no greater love than a man would lay down his life for someone else. And so that's the mission of Jesus, and that's our mission to serve people in conflict zones, in these dangerous areas of how we can help, to love them like Jesus, to share the hope of Jesus, and to bring medical relief or humanitarian aid, different things. So yeah, my job with the team is to document it, photos, videos, sharing different stories, but really to cast a light on it. The Bible talks about the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. And so when I work with them, when I'm there filming and sharing stories, like, that's what I see every day. That despite the hardships, despite the difficulty, despite all the terrible things going on, the darkness cannot overcome the light, because Christ is there. And so that's the joy of getting to use my photography, my videography, for a greater purpose. That maybe back to that Nat Geo thing. Like, I'm so glad I'm not with Nat Geo. They never called me.
Yeah.
If they're watching this,
they missed you.
yeah, they missed. But yeah, the joy, like, getting to use my gifts for a greater purpose, to share stories. So
yeah, you made it so beautiful, because I keep thinking about like follow-up questions, but you just made it so beautiful, like with the Bible verse. And like, I don't want to ask like what's the heart. I don't want to, because you just shared. It's like you're ready to like lay your life for person to accept Jesus.
Yeah.
That's such a big deal. So I wanted to go back, okay, a little bit back, and I wanted to know the story. I know I've heard it.
Yeah.
So it's something like super interesting story, that you were hospitalized for the training.
Okay.
To be in this. I want to, and I want to even know about the hospital thing where you were lying down. It's like, I want to know the whole thing. Don't miss anything.
All right. So to join the organization, it's obviously a very difficult. When we're working there, it's a very difficult situation. So there's a fitness test you have to pass in order to volunteer with this organization, because if you can't take care of yourself, how can you take care of someone else, under fire or whatever? So there's a fitness test. It's up and down a mountain several times, with a backpack. So 50 pounds for the guys, 35 pounds for the girls. And so I'd been training for this, went out and I did the test, and I crushed it. I did really well. But my problem was I didn't drink enough water. And so while I passed the test later that evening, really didn't start to feel great. And so my friends took me to the hospital. Like, I was running a high fever. But at that time, I thought I was just dehydrated. Just thought I had a high fever. And they got to the hospital and they checked me out and they said, hey, you can stay. We'll admit you, or you can go home. But just so happened, I don't like spending money, but just so happened they were running like a promo. It's like a hotel. They're running a promo on their hospital room. Like, if you stay, it's like half price. And I was like, man, it's like, this is nice. You feel like I'm going to treat myself to a hotel stay or to a hospital stay. So I decided to stay, and that probably saved my life, because in the middle of the night, I began to develop seizures, because the whole thing was I had rhabdomyolysis, which is like where your muscles release a toxin into your blood, and your kidneys process that blood, and so it goes to your kidneys. And so, if you're at the hospital, there's a button to call the nurse or whatever. Well, I was shaking so hard, I wasn't in control of my body to push that button. But eventually they came in, rushed me to the ER. I blacked out for several hours, and I spent 5 hours in the emergency room. And the doctors asked if I wanted to call my parents if I wasn't going to make it. They asked for my passport to like inform the U.S. Embassy that, one of their nationals had passed away. Like, it wasn't good. And so I'm just laying there in the emergency room. I wasn't in pain, so it really was confusing. Like, is this is this the way I'm gonna go? You know, like all of my hopes and my dreams, and it comes down to like I didn't drink enough water. But I'm laying there and I'm watching my heart rate on the monitor, right? I'm not in pain, but I'm just like beep beep and watching it. Well, it's super fast because I was stressed. But I was like, am I gonna will I die first while that's still going, or will that stop and then I have a few more seconds? It was weird.
But that's an interesting question, actually.
Yeah, I hope you never have to ask that, Frankie. I was like, how does death work, you know? And I was just disappointed. You know, like at that time I was so excited for what was ahead and different things at that time. I was interested in my now wife Tabitha, my parents, all these different things, and I was like, man, I have so much more to live for. But I really do trust the Lord. And I think I had 5 hours there, so I had lots of time to think about that for myself. But I just had to trust Him. It didn't make sense, but I just had to trust Him, Lord, if that you work all things together for your glory. And if I pass now, I trust that you will work it for your glory. If you save me and I'm able to walk out of here, then man, a lot's going to change. You know that I have so much to live for, and I'm so grateful for that. But it was a weird time because I'm literally laying there. The doctors are rushing around doing stuff. I'm watching my heart rate. I was just like, is this how I die? But thankfully I didn't,
You
and the
didn't
Lord
play.
saved me. So I'm here.
Praise God.
Praise God. Amen.
I'm pretty sure all the intense um, work or intense training that you went through to go through that part, I already know it's so important. The
Yeah.
work that you do there for the people,
Yeah.
for the Burmese, the country as
Yeah.
well. And you guys don't just do it for Burma, but you travel pretty much a lot of
Yeah.
other countries too,
Yeah.
like Iraq, Israel.
Yep.
And
Mm.
can you just share one or two experience that you have seen there
Mm.
that makes you, yes, I don't want to stop
Yeah.
doing this at all?
Yeah. Man, already we were in Syria, my last trip with FBR, we got to visit Deir ez-Zor, which was the last sort of holdout of ISIS back in 2017 or 2018. And I wasn't there for that battle, but I got to be there. We went in later. And I got to share. I met this woman who had been held as a slave by ISIS. She had been held as a slave, a child bride, had been, at one point, they had burned her with acid. They had abused her. And so terrible, terrible damage to her face, but she had eventually been able to get plastic surgery and different things. But I got to sit down and share her testimony, her interview, because her story of perseverance and hope was incredible. You know, against the darkest, most terrible evil like ISIS, being held by them, being abused, and all these things. But the hope that she now has, wanting to go on to study in the U.S., to be a teacher, that hope, like that resilience, was just incredible because um, of her spirit, you know. And so being the person across the camera and getting to share that story is such a privilege and so encouraging. Other stories about, I work with anti-trafficking home in Laos, and I've had the opportunity several times to visit and to share some of the testimonies of the survivors there. And many of those precious women have gone on to be followers of Jesus, given their life to the Lord, and have forgiven their abusers. And that as well is just the most incredible privilege to be able to sit across from them. You know, like despite all the crazy stuff, you know, like you've gone here, this has happened to you, like, you know,
The
all
shooting,
the
almost
travel, yeah, all of
dying.
that. Like, okay, it's crazy and everything, but it's so powerful to see how to see the power of Jesus in people's lives. Like for me, that's the most incredible thing, where these, women have been abused and treated so terribly, but yet they've forgiven their enemy, and they now have a hope in the future to do other greater things and to go back and encourage and teach other girls. And so just opportunities like that, where I get to sit across from someone and hear their story, hear their testimony, or what God has done in their life, that to me is the greatest privilege, because it impacts me. But then I also get to help share that story with the world. It's not giving a voice to the voiceless, but it's giving, a platform and sharing their story. And so that to me is like the greatest and most incredible privilege of getting to hear and share these powerful stories.
I just feel how satisfying you are
Yeah.
doing this. I think it's so much better than you not being there in Nachia.
Not you.
And I can just see it in your face, like
Yeah.
the story,
Yeah.
the satisfaction in your heart.
Yeah.
It's like reflecting.
Yeah.
So you just touched a little bit about your now wife Tabitha.
Yeah.
So you are going to do all this with her now. You're going to
Yeah.
travel to these crazy places and do all these things. I want to know how you feel. And
Well, if you want to know how she feels, she should be the one sitting here. It's something we pray about. It's something very, very much from the beginning. It's when we got married, something that really had drawn me to her was her heart for justice as well. Early on, the Lord had placed on her heart a desire to go to law school, sort of born out of this idea of Micah 6:8, to seek justice, love mercy, walk humbly with our God. The Bible talks about true religion is this, to look after orphans and widows in their distress. So all throughout the Bible, it's clear that God is a God of justice, and he has a deep heart for the poor, for the vulnerable, for the oppressed. And so that was something that immediately drew me to Tabitha was her similar heart for those things. And we approach it differently. I work in the humanitarian aid sector. I'm doing video and photography. Her passion is the justice side, and so she went on to become a lawyer, got called to the bar in Singapore. And so, yeah, now we get the opportunity, the joy to do this together. And something from the beginning we talked about is we really want to be a family that's led by faith and not fear. And it's easy to make that just a catchy phrase, and I understand, but it really, that has to be at the heart of what we do. Because if we are led by fear and our decisions are made out of fear, that's not honoring the Lord. But if we genuinely believe that as followers of Jesus, his spirit is within us, then we really want to step out in faith and to serve those people groups. We want to serve in areas that even if they're dangerous, we're there because that's where Jesus is. And so we really want to be together as a couple. We want to be led by faith and not fear. And so that's really exciting, is getting to step out and do these things, not by myself now, but like a force multiplied, getting to do it together, because she is so talented and so amazing. And what the Lord will do through her and me together is so much more than we could do on our own. And so I think that's the joy, is getting to serve the Lord, his passion for justice, his heart for justice, and getting to do that together is so exciting.
God, thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing that. It's uh, I know it's so dangerous in certain, like, in Middle Eastern places, but you pretty much answer to all my follow up questions. Like, you just give answers with the Bible verse. That's amazing, man. You're just making my work so easy. So
Oh.
coming up to another point, that you being such an amazing teacher, I want to go back. So we have you, the amazing
Got a whole
photographer.
map from
Yeah,
Frankie. I love it.
yeah, the amazing photographer, the ranger guy who
Yep.
gets shot with a
Almost.
like a machine gun,
Almost.
and almost dying.
Yeah.
All those things.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the face of you, the teacher face. And you been with Medialight from 2016,
17.
17,
Yeah. Wow.
and like from there, like 17, 18, 19.
7 years. Yeah.
You have changed so many people's life by encouraging them, by who you being.
Yeah.
Such a sweet guy.
Yeah. Oh, thanks.
And being such a kind teacher.
Yeah.
Encouraging everybody. So I want to talk about you as a teacher.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel?
It's funny you say that, because it literally wasn't until 2023 we were leaving Medialight. Last year I'd come here to teach. We were leaving in a truck. Pastor Chuck was taking my wife and I back. We were flying back to Singapore, and we were driving back, and I turned to Pastor Chuck and I goes, I think I really enjoy teaching. And it had like really unlocked for me in 2023. Up to that point, I would do it. Like I enjoyed doing it, but it wasn't like my passion. But through my time at Medialight, it really unlocked this idea, man, like I get to use the skills and the gifts I have, not just for myself, but to train and to multiply other people, right? Like I can't do it all by myself. I don't want to do it all by myself, but the joy of getting to train and equip other people to go out and do amazing things as well, that's just incredible. And so that's what I really began to love at Medialight, is I have this passion for photography and video, and I can share that with other people. And it's not just about teaching them skills, and it's not just about teaching them like the technical stuff. This is how you hold a camera. This is but it's really teaching them as well, like giving them a passion and a love for other people, for sharing stories, for honoring people and seeing them the way that Christ does. When you teach them that, the skills come later. And so it's such a joy for me to get to go in and help equip them with those skills, that when they go back home to wherever they're from, that they can use their skills in photo and video to share stories. And so yeah, through Medialight, I've really loved the opportunity they've given me to be a teacher. Because I'm sure you know this as well. Like the teacher learns the most.
Oh,
Like when we're teaching, when like, oh, we learn so much. And so teaching has helped me also become just a better photographer, better videographer myself as well. But Medialight really helped unlock that for me. Like I love teaching. I love seeing how students grow. I love pushing them, seeing how they create, and just the unique gifts that God has given each one of them.
No, I really enjoy sitting in your classes.
Mm.
It's so fun. You just make it so simple.
Yeah.
Because for me is I'm a person that needs more hands-on. I'm a slow learner. So for me, Medialight was I had like great teachers like Johnny, Drew, Yune. They were like life-changing people for me when I was a student here in 2012. So as you said, the teacher learns more.
Yeah.
But the right teacher
Mm.
helps people have confidence. And how do you think giving confidence, because you're such a kind person, and you take time, you even teach them 6 7 times if they don't get it, and you go up, you sit with them, you spend time. So how do you think encouraging students to push them to a vision
Mm.
of learning this is important?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Frankie. I think though it's funny you say that because I'm so thankful for how patient you are. And it's not like this, oh, like you're good, I'm good. But whenever I'm teaching, I
You're
know
more good than me.
I know whenever you sit with a student, you are so patient and you really go deep with training and teaching them how to be better. And that's where I struggle. I love teaching the class, but taking the time to go one-on-one with a student and be patient for so long, I learn so much from watching you because I know if there's a student who's struggling and I put them with Frankie, they're going to learn the most they've ever learned. And that doesn't mean if you're ever partnered with Frankie, you're the worst
Is
student in
this
the class.
podcast about Frankie?
But well, okay. I'm thankful for you. I think I just really love. I'm someone who always like roots for the underdog. Like when I look at a class, I'm always inspired and impressed by the students who are the best. But I also look at the students who are there for the first time, who don't know anything, and I'm like, let's teach you a little bit, right? Like let's get you just creating and editing your first video. Like that's so exciting to me. The students who can already edit their own video and do all this, I'm so happy for you. I really, really am. But my heart is in teaching those students who don't know much at all and really bringing them from knowing very little to making their first video, to sharing their first testimony or their first documentary or something like that. That's where I'm excited, is to help raise their level, right? Because I also think that's the mark of a good leader, is you're not always going after like the top and the best, but how do you raise the bar for everyone? And so that's my goal with the class, because anytime you walk into a class, there's students from all sorts of different backgrounds. Some are great, some aren't so great, some want to be there. Well, all of them want to be there.
Yeah.
But me as a teacher, I want to do my best to raise the bar for everyone. And if you already know a lot, well, then I'll try to teach you more. If you don't know a lot, I'm going to teach you as much as I can, and really make the most of your time here at Medialight. So I think that's what brings me the most joy teaching, is seeing students learn and challenge themselves and accomplish things they haven't been able to do before.
And I really feel like Medialight is really lucky to have teachers and people like you who really have a heart to serve, love, encourage, and give love on people. I think that's why we are so amazing, and we are able to change so many lives with people. I'm a big example. My life was changed here. And for who I am is because of teachers like you, who was willing to take time.
Yeah.
Like my teacher Johnny and all those people, I can always reach out to them any point, just a WhatsApp message away. So yeah, I'm really fortunate for people like that, and we are so lucky to have you here in Medialight as our amazing teacher. And thank you so much for being with us. And I really appreciate your heart. You're such a kind person. I just don't want to say it for the camera, but really, you are such
So
a
while
kind.
we're rolling,
You're such a kind person.
thank
And
you,
here
Frankie.
you go, guys. Jonathan Haynes, amazing person and amazing teacher. Peace out.